Hi, and we are actually at VidCon, which is super exciting. We're in Amsterdam, and I am joined by Dr. Shini Somara. I think you might be the first doctor on Sofa Science.
Yay!
Considering
it was worth doing 4.5 years just for that.
Considering the amount of scientists we've had, I think you are the first doctor. So, first questions, as always, first questions go. Who are you?
I'm Dr. Shini Somara. Who am I in terms of...
Introduce yourself to this audience who don't know you.
So I'm Dr. Shini Somara and I am the host of Crash Course Physics.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shini Somara and I hear you want to learn physics. I have to say, good choice. Physics is the science of how the world, really the whole universe, works. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the world I live in, things tend to move around a lot. So that's what we're going to study first, the science of motion.
I've also done a bit of telly and I'm a mechanical engineer by academic qualification and hopefully just a nice human being.
Yeah, I think you're a nice human being.
Good.
How did you get started with the science communication?
So I guess the curiosity started halfway through my doctorate, because you know how we go to academic conferences and we tell people about our work.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did that, I loved the human interaction, the kind of telling people about my research, which was the reason why I was there, and then learning about other people's research and really seeing the sparkle in their eyes when they talked about what they were studying.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to learn more about what you're doing. And they were like, I want to learn about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the start of my interest in communication.
And at that time, what were you doing?
So I was doing my PhD in computational fluid dynamics,
Okay.
which is the software that allows engineers to visualize how fluids, gases and liquids flow. And normally fluids are really invisible to us.
So is that the thing where you see an animation of all these red and blue arrows moving around with different sizes for how fast things are flowing?
We see CFD every day because we look at weather maps.
Yeah.
So when someone's going, this high pressure is over England or whatever, that's CFD essentially.
And were you writing the software or using the software to interpret data?
What I was doing at the time was, this is going to age me, but back then you could only get a static image of what the fluids were doing. So you put in a ton of boundary conditions. Let's just say in this room you'd have the air conditioning blowing air out through there, and so you'd put that into your CAD model, and then you'd hit go. It would do a bunch of calculations, all based on Bernoulli, and then it would give you a picture of what the conditions were like in a room. But the thing is, that wasn't very realistic, but we didn't have the computational power or the know-how to see how fluid dynamics change with changing boundary conditions. So I was looking at how conditions change within a building, and it's really complicated because the sun has a massive impact on what happens in enclosed spaces. So my actual title was computational fluid dynamics, dynamic thermal modeling using computational fluid dynamics.
Okay.
Because you only had static images back then.
Yeah. And then you were doing all of this modelling and you were going to academic conferences. Had you, when you started your PhD, thought at all about a career in science communication, or was it, I'm going to be an academic?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do back then. I just knew that I enjoyed mechanical engineering. At the end of my degree, I was fascinated by CFD. And I also knew that I wasn't ready to go and work in the real world. And the doctorate that I did was sponsored by a company. So I was based in industry doing my research, but it was my own project. So I was kind of it was the best of both worlds. It was kind of like a smooth introduction to industry.
Yeah.
And then halfway through my doctorate, I kind of fell in love with communication. And so it was after I finished my doctorate, I want to go into communication in some capacity.
Full time or alongside your work?
I didn't really think that far.
Okay.
It was weird.
Yeah.
I just knew I was starting to I was so immersed in engineering during that time that I was just starting to realise that I was interested in other things. And bear in mind that YouTube wasn't around back then. So communication meant television or radio.
Okay. So what was the first step? Because often I'm chatting to my friends who are scientists and they don't know what that first step is that they can take. They're like, oh, I'm now interested in science communication. Where can I start? What did you start off with?
What I did was, I started to look at where I was really interested, and I loved being on camera.
Mm-hmm.
I dabbled a little bit in it when I was kind of doing modelling type things.
Hang on, we're talking modelling, not modelling.
Photographic.
So I'm so sciencey minded. It took me aging to work out. Oh, okay. So it
was a bit of a running joke because it was like I was doing CFD modeler. Yeah, I was doing CFD modelling and fashion modelling, and it was weird. It was a weird time.
But fashion modelling was stills photography, I'm guessing, rather than...
It was, when you're a model, you just get whatever work you can get.
Okay,
and so
I wouldn't know.
It was kind of like photographic studio stuff, but also runway stuff.
Okay. And you enjoyed the environment of a studio? Because you wouldn't have been talking.
Do you know what? I absolutely did not enjoy modelling because models don't tend to have voices.
Yeah, that's why I'm wondering how going from a model to knowing that you enjoy talking on camera.
Yeah, well, I knew I needed to have a voice and I had so much to say about science because I was so fascinated by what I was learning at uni and I wanted to be able to talk about it. And I was familiar with the camera because of the modelling fashion stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I want to go into TV then. And that was the start of my journey into television. And it was long and it was hard. And
what was your first job?
I had no idea what I was doing. So the very first thing I did was for the One show on BBC One. And it was kind of interesting because it was to a live audience of 7 million people. And we were talking about porous paving, which is probably one of the most kind of boring subjects.
Visually dull. Yeah. So the One show is a magazine style show on BBC One, the main TV channel in the UK, and it's a half-hour programme, broadcast in the evening every day, and they just bring on different little sections, like we're going to talk to this person about books, and now we're going to talk about porous paving, and now we're going to move to One Direction, and it's just lots of little snippets of things.
Yeah, they call that a magazine show because it's lots of different topics all in 1.5 an hour. And so I was talking about porous paving because at the time the government had just issued a bill that said that anyone that puts down paving, it has to be porous. Mm-hmm. So, that show caters for a wide demographic of people in the UK. And so we had loads of fun. We were talking about porous paving and, whether that's gravel or, kind of porous actual stone or grass or whatever it is.
And you had been brought on because of your expertise in fluids?
In science.
In science in general, okay.
Yeah. It's been a really interesting journey through TV, and what's fascinating is when you come to something like VidCon and you see people just filming their passions. I have always been passionate about science generally, like just learning about different types of technology, innovation, and in television you kind of had to have a niche. Yeah. Whereas here on digital, you can kind of just follow whatever you're interested in. Mm-hmm. I mean, having talked to science communicators at the conference this time round, it's been amazing them saying, yeah, I'm a mechanical engineer, but I have been doing stuff on beauty or whatever it is, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was going into television, if you moved into anything that wasn't engineering, that was kind of frowned upon because you have to have a subject and you stick to it.
Was that frowned upon by other academics or by TV producers?
I think by TV producers, because I think in television you have to build a brand or whatever, and I've just always been wildly curious about many things and wanting to investigate and actually wanting to tap into the passion of other people. I've met so many scientists now through my television work where I'm kind of like infected by their enthusiasm of their subject, and it gets me really excited. And I now see myself less as a science communicator and more as a science translator, because often we meet scientists who are just so into what they do and often using terminology that most people don't understand. And it's kind of like trying to find the nugget of amazing science.
Yes. Because they're so used to talking to other scientists about their work, is not fresh to them anymore.
Yeah. And I remember being in that mindset when I was doing my doctorate. I was so focused. I mean, you know this from doing yours. We just get so focused in our subject, and we forget that there's a whole world of people out there that don't speak the same language.
Yeah.
I was living, breathing, and whatever else you can do in life. My computational fluid dynamics. I mean, I just remember on Christmas Day running simulations while I was eating turkey.
Okay, I don't go that far.
Christmas is off. It was one of the last Christmases before, submitting my thesis.
Okay.
And it was just, I was had steam coming out my ears at that time. So.
A lot of people say that it's hard to get into TV presenting, and that it's very much you're working from job to job. So did you have another job alongside this, or were you just throw all caution to the wind, who cares about job security, I'm just going to put all of my effort into getting these jobs so that I can build my career?
In the beginning, I was living off savings. I worked as a runner because before I became on camera, I was behind camera, kind of learning the ropes, because I honestly had never aspired to be on television. I kind of fell into it. And so I wanted to know what a producer did, an editor, and so I tried my hand at different roles behind the camera before ending up on camera. And during that time, I was still kind of very much in the engineering world, so I was kind of consulting on a freelance basis. And then as I got more and more TV stuff, it started to pay the bills. And now it's been full time I've had a good sort of 6-year run of doing back-to-back series for various
That's
networks.
Great.
Yeah, it's kind of unheard of.
Because, once you've established a name for yourself, I imagine it's slightly easier because TV producers know who you are. But that first going from behind the camera to in front of the camera...
It was hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. And to put it bluntly, you're not a white man. So did you find that made things harder, made things easier, or didn't affect you? It is just hard for everyone?
I think it's hard for everyone, because I think ultimately, looking back on my career, I think what people were looking for was my genuine interest and passion. And I've been through a journey with that myself, finding my own areas of interest, because CFD was amazing and interesting, but it wasn't... I had passion for it while I was studying it, but then afterwards I was like, oh my God, there's a whole world out there, and I want to kind of discover it. And so when I was in TV, I was working on different projects. I was always working for science and factual entertainment production companies. So, but they were doing all kinds of subjects, and it's very different in the digital space, because you kind of just hone in on what your interests are, whereas I've been experimenting my whole career really, and it's just been an interesting journey through television in terms of supporting myself and going through periods of oh my God, I need to give this up because I'm not getting anywhere. And the fact that I was not I've never been a white male has both been good and bad.
Okay, in what way has it been good?
So it's been good because whenever they've needed someone like me, there's been so few people to choose from that I've kind of just walked into a job, because they're like, we need to balance up the ethnic diversity and whatever. So that's been great. But it's also been a hindrance, because sometimes you need that white male role to get the audience figures.
Oh, okay, so do you find that TV audiences are larger for white men then?
Well, put it this way, if you're going to put a face on a television program and have that person front it, you want to make sure that you maximise your audience reach. And because I don't have a maximum, compared to... so the people that have a maximum audience...
Oh, I see. So the big names tend to... So it's
to fit that stereotype.
Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. And you mentioned how it's kind of when they're looking for diversity, they'll come to you. Did you ever find that either you yourself thought, oh, maybe they've only chosen me for this reason, or the people around you thought, oh, they've only chosen Shini because she's not a white man?
No, I don't. It's weird having this conversation because it's not a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, this conversation, like this topic is not really a thing. From my perspective, because let's just take Top Gear, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that have presented that fit that stereotype.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be factual entertainment.
Is it?
Yeah.
Top Gear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It has won awards in that category, which is
Wow.
amazing to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've often asked myself, like, why aren't... Because those presenters have ended up presenting science things which were my expertise.
Yes.
Invisible worlds, for example.
Yeah.
Or engineering connections. And I'm like, why am I not presenting that stuff? But I've been on my own personal journey of, like, trying to figure out what it is that I want to present.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's not that I wasn't being chosen because I don't fit the stereotype. I think it's people are looking for genuine passion. And so when I was working on Techno, I had genuine passion for that show because we were going out filming all kinds of stories across all different types of sciences.
So what was Techno?
Techno was on Al Jazeera, America. It's now on Al Jazeera English. And it was a show about science by scientists. That was our strapline. And a team of us, 9 of us, were all qualified scientists in various different subjects. And we just went out and we told stories about science. And we weren't pigeonholed into, oh, you're an engineer, you do the engineering stories. We just did whatever took our fancy. And we could pitch our own stories. So I was mapping glaciers with NASA over Greenland. I did a sea lion story in California about them getting stranded because of climate change.
Yeah.
And
would you have one person, one story for a full episode, or would it still be?
No,
stories?
it would be about 3 stories over the half an hour.
Okay.
3 different presenters, and yeah, we just go out and find out different things. I mean, I witnessed a lung transplant. I am not good at biology. I don't know anything about the subject really.
Yeah.
Apart from GCSE, and there I was doing, standing there talking about lungs and the technology behind transplanting organs and transporting organs and the need for technology behind it, and it was so fascinating because I learned something.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's one of the things that I think differentiates in being in academia versus being in science communication is that, I mean, you're learning in both, but you're learning over such a broad area when you're in science communication versus in a PhD. You can take a little bit of information from everything, and like you say, you're choosing the stories. So you can be like, oh, well, that's personally interesting to me.
Yeah, and I'm very much a visual person, and my doctorate was very visual. I mean, we were trying to visualise the invisible. And when it comes to media, I love kind of bringing things to life visually, and that's why I wanted to go into television as opposed to being in radio or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when I'm flicking through a magazine, I'm so attracted by kind of like pretty pictures of science or or cute animals or whatever it is. Like, it's always, people can be attracted in different ways, and so the visual medium was important to me, and the science was kind of, it could be anything.
Yeah.
So.
And then, so a lot of people will know you because you did a physics crash course with the Crash Course Hank Green team.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Again, through connections in television, and the science communication community is very small. Do you find that?
Yes. Well, I'm only aware of the science communication on YouTube community.
Yeah.
And it's fairly big, but I find that people are very easy to get in contact with. And so it's you don't have to be a big name in order to talk to the big names, if that makes sense.
And I think that's how I got my Crash Course role, because someone from Techno knew Hank, and Hank was looking for a physics host, and that's how I ended up doing it.
So they approached you?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And
I knew nothing about Crash Course.
Yeah, was that your first experience making YouTube videos?
Yeah. It's been my first and only experience, which is why VidCon's been really interesting.
I can imagine, like, what was it like first day on the YouTube set? Because even by YouTube standards, it's quite a TV.
Yeah.
In the sense of you're working with a team, you've got a set, you've got scripts, you've got script writers.
You've got an actual team.
Yeah.
It's not a one-person operation.
But when you kind of first started working on it, did you feel it was very different to TV in the style of working or how you're doing it, or did it all seem quite a seamless transition?
No, it was a seamless transition, but it was very different.
Okay.
Seamless because I'm so comfortable on camera now, it's second nature. And seamless because they're a great team at Crash Course. I really miss them. So the actual kind of the logistics were more easy actually than television, because with television you usually have a big crew. You've got a sound guy, you've got a cameraman, you've got a producer, a director, and you're often in the field. Whereas with this, with Crash Course, it was very much kind of you're in a room. We weren't at the YouTube studios. We were in Missoula, Montana, a very kind of, at the time when I first started, it was just a very humble room that had been turned into a studio. And, budget-wise, it's night and day. Television budgets are huge and, bigger than...
What kind of order of magnitude are we talking?
I'd say a tenth.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Let's just say. But obviously it depends on the network as well, because they have varying budgets. But it was just so straightforward. You go there, you shoot it, you're done. Mm-hmm. I'd get scripts and I'd go through them before, but with television, it's very much you're taking people on a journey, and so telling that narrative is so different compared to just reading a script.
And start to end, how long were you working? Because it was a 12-part series, the Crash Course?
48.
48?
48 episodes filmed over 2016.
So all in 48 episodes in 1 year.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much one a week.
It was one a week.
And were you filming one a week?
I was there 8 times in the year in Montana. Mm-hmm. 8 times last year. And every time I was there, we shot 6.
Okay.
And 4 episodes to make it 52 episodes for the entire year. 4 of them were outtakes.
I see.
And they are hilarious.
There'll be a link to them in the description below.
They're so much fun.
So you started on Crash Course, and firstly, what was your role? Because obviously you're speaking on camera, but were you writing the scripts as well? Were you involved in picking the topics?
No, wasn't involved in picking the topics because we very much stuck to AP Physics, which is advanced placement. It's kind of like the A-level equivalent in the US.
Is it age 18 sort of?
Yeah, it's A-level age, before you go to college or university, as we call it at home. And so we had the syllabus and we basically chopped it up into 48 chunks. Mm-hmm. And we had an amazing scriptwriter called Alyssa who just brought those chunks to life. She's a physicist, so she knew exactly what she was talking about. We had a physics consultant looking at the scripts that she wrote. And then once those 2 tasks were done, I then looked at the scripts and I was kind of like the last person to kind of okay it, to make sure it was in accordance with a syllabus that is taught in schools. And I always wanted to be able to really understand the examples and really feel like, that it was well explained. Because with scripts, if somebody else is writing it and you're reading it, it can just feel like you're not connected to the script. So I always got them in advance and made them my own.
Because someone else is writing in their own voice. And was it an American?
Yeah, there were often language differences.
Yeah. No,
just in terms of, I can't even remember them now, but there are certain expressions in American that mean something different to us.
Yes, or it just sounds really weird in a British accent as well, because the work I was doing with GE, we worked with an American writer, and I would just be like, There is no way that I would ever say, like, it was a factually accurate thing that we were saying. It's just the sentence itself, just out of my mouth. And they're like, yes, out of your mouth. It sounds like a very weird sentence.
Yeah. Sometimes there were subtle differences that change the meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like, I've gotten something is,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing where
Yeah.
it was like, I can't say that because you're actually changing the physics,
Yes.
you know, so.
And then, so you're filming these in bulk. Are you filming them in the same year that they're going out, or did you film all of them and then they were all released?
We were usually about a month ahead.
Okay. So you were able to use audience feedback to kind of adjust how you were filming?
No.
Not at all?
No, like our feedback was often, once we had posted it, the feedback was often, you know, if we had made any kind of errors, and then we'd correct them, but it wasn't, the turnaround was too far ahead.
Okay.
And it was so thorough. These videos were so thoroughly put together, and plus the crash course kind of template is long established now.
Mm-hmm.
So they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it has to be very much in accordance with the crash course model.
Yes.
So, you know, even if I had wanted it to make it more of a Shini-style, it wouldn't have happened because it came under the crash course banner. So.
What would more of a Shini-style be?
That would just be an entirely different thing, because crash course in itself, like, it has its animators, it has its format of like punching into 3 different shot types. I mean, if I was to ever do something, and I'm thinking about doing my own stuff, but that's like a whole
You heard
scary,
it here first.
it's a whole scary new thing. But if I was to ever do my own stuff, I would definitely go, I mean, I love this kind of casual interaction, so I'd probably just be more of myself. And like my friends and family and boyfriend, like they all know me as being a total goof. And I've never actually been a proper goof on camera.
Okay.
So I maybe would let the goof out.
Yeah.
But
That's a new strapline. Dr. Shini Somara lets the goof out.
yeah, well, my boyfriend's always saying like the goof is loose. So
I like that.
yeah, it might be something along those lines. Because science is fun, right?
Yes.
Like,
Well, it can be.
we take it all quite seriously. And I just would love to not be so scared about getting facts right and just celebrate the fact that science like quenches our curiosity and just go down that sort of avenue.
It's quite a childlike career, I think. I often think of scientists as people who haven't switched off that, oh, but mum, why? Oh, but why? Oh, but why?
Yeah.
It's that, essentially, but you're paid for it as an adult.
Yeah.
And with a little bit more thoroughness. And you said that the audience response didn't affect the producing of the videos, but personally, I mean, you don't get the same kind of feedback on a TV show as you do on a YouTube video. What was that like for you, the first time you started reading the comments, if you read the comments at all?
Well, we talked about this on the panel, didn't we? Before we even started broadcasting Crash Course Physics, Hank said to me, do not read the comments because there will always be haters out there. And I just thought, who's going to hate what we're doing? Come on, we're trying to do some really good stuff here. And then when we aired the first one, my gosh, there were comments, all kinds of comments, really, like on the whole, great comments. But there were the odd few that were really critical and personally critical. Like, apparently I've got man hands. I do have big hands.
You have very long hands, but you're also a very tall person.
You see that?
Yeah, so yeah, there's a bit of a gap there.
I do have man hands, it's true. Good for piano play.
Do you play piano?
I used to.
Oh.
I haven't touched a piano for ages.
Get back into that. I saw Maddie and I were chatting, we were saying that all science communicators either have a background in music or theatre. And do you have theatre background at all?
I craved drama when I was studying the sciences. And actually, once I qualified with the doctorate, I did a bunch of acting courses. I had to let that person run free.
Yeah. Was that just because you wanted to do it or because you thought it would help the career as well?
No, it's just because I wanted to do it.
Oh, that's really nice.
I absolutely loved drama at school and I had to drop it for the sciences.
Yeah.
And so once I was done, I was like, get me onto a stage. Obviously, that kind of like kind of performer.
Yes. I think we're all performers in essence. I mean, we're talking into cameras and expecting people to listen, so it's always a bit of a performance. Other than saying that you got man hands, what were the comments like?
Well, after I started seeing those kind of comments, I realised that Hank was really right. Like, there's no point in going through all of those comments. And people that want to say really positive things, I always respond to. I mean, there was a filtration process anyway going on. So, you know, anything that was inappropriate was taken away. I always welcome feedback, but only if it has a constructive tone.
Yes.
So, you know, we often made small errors in the way we expressed equations and things like that. So we corrected them. But I started to pay less attention to people that kind of were just bored and wanted to create a bit of a stir.
And were most of the criticisms about you personally or about your explanations?
I don't know, because after the manhand stuff, I just really...
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, it's not that... I actually wasn't allowed access to the comments.
How is that possible when they're on a public YouTube video?
I don't know. I don't know. It got to a stage where, like, I wanted to read them and I wasn't able to. I don't know if there's a setting on there that Crash Course has where you can't read them.
That's interesting. Because I was just about to ask, how on earth did you have the restraint to not read the comments? Because I've often been told, don't read the comments. But I am an absolute masochist and I read every single one.
Maybe the comments are there. I don't know, there was a time when I was like, I can't read the comments anymore. And one of the girls, Nicole Sweeney, who was directing, she was like, yeah, I have actually started taking some of the comments out. You can delete or something?
You can delete comments, yes.
Yeah, so she...
Delete comments, you can make a list of words that automatically get blocked.
Right, okay. Because I know nothing about that. But it got to a stage where it was like, I would want to glance, but like I couldn't or something.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, I just left it because people that want to actually say something of any significance can contact me and I'd always respond. And so I just left it as that.
Yeah.
Because I think, you know, it's really important when you're creating content to do it with passion and to do it to satisfy something within yourself. If you then start getting swayed by comments, it can really distract you from your goal.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I kind of like stopped paying attention to some of the stuff that I got. Yeah.
That sounds really sensible. I wish I could do that. But for now, I just
Doesn't it influence you?
Yes, terribly.
Yeah,
it gives me great hang-ups, but I just can't stop myself from doing it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you were developing a thicker skin as a result of doing that.
I think so. No, I definitely am. It's one of the things that comes with the job. And so, is you need a thicker skin for it.
Yeah.
And slowly building my way into it.
I mean, you know, I was heavily swayed by everybody's opinions when I first got out of uni.
Yeah.
Because I think I wasn't really sure what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So then everybody else's opinion it's really affected me because I was like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. What about them? And, you know, and not soon. I was going to say I soon learned, but it actually took me a while.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a while to realise that it's really important to listen to your own self, your own inner voice. But my inner voice was like a whisper because, you know, I think having a loud inner voice comes with experience and age and confidence and all that stuff.
And I think having enough projects under your belt that you're like, actually, no, I know what I'm doing.
I've
got, as a scientist, I've got evidence for my hypothesis that I know what I'm doing.
It's not an easy thing to manage. You know, other people's opinions. I mean, we create content for people, so we do care about what they think. Mm-hmm. I mean, with Crash Course, I really cared about providing a service to people.
Mm-hmm.
And so to then say, well, I can't read the comments, I'm like, how do I navigate that? Because I really do care what people think.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to start, losing confidence in what I'm doing. So it's a thing that has to be managed frequently. It's not like a one-stop, okay, this is what I'm doing, I'm never going to read the comments again.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. And you said that you're aiming for just before university audience. Do you know who you actually reached on YouTube?
A wider demographic than just A-level students. And I only know that not because I looked through analytics. I don't even know how to do that, which is amazing because at VidCon everyone's like, let me just pull up the analytics. And I'm just like, wow, you can do that? I'm so not a digital person. Like, I'm still clearly in television mode. But just from the feedback I get from people coming up to me at VidCon, you know, it's amazing what Crash Course Physics can do in terms of reaching people. So there have been people that were always scared of physics at school, and now they're mature and they're like, you know what, I'm going to go back and learn physics because I can. I can do it in privacy and no one's judging me and I don't have an exam at the end of it. That's been really rewarding. But also students that really struggled with physics. There was someone today at VidCon Europe who was saying that they were doing an IB, so apparently they're
International Baccalaureate, which is like the APs but for Europe. So you'll do about 5 different subjects.
Yeah, and they're scored on a scale of 1 to 8 maybe or something. But it's numbers, it's not grades.
Yeah.
And he was getting 1s and 2s, which apparently were not very good. And he was saying, I'm getting 6s and 7s, and I was like,
that's
and
great.
he would just thanked me so much. And it's people like that you know, so it's not just an American audience, it's not just A-level students, but it's a wide demographic of people that kind of are secret physics enthusiasts and don't know it. Do you know, I just love that about online education. You know, you can dip in and dip out as you please. You don't have to do 48 episodes, you can just do
the odd one that takes your interest. And do you know anything about your gender split? Because this is something that, so we've been on 2 panels together, the Let Me Explain You a Thing panel and the Women in Science panel. And something that's come up is quite how male skewed pretty much every educational audience is. Do you know anything about, because I know it's not your channel and you haven't seen much about the analytics, but do you have an idea of?
I'm assuming it's mostly male.
Okay.
But the last conference I was at before this one, NerdCon in Boston, I couldn't believe the amount of female engineering students that watched physics. And I mean, I was overwhelmed. I've never been I got everyone together actually, and we did a live stream. The sound was terrible, but it was so nice to be in a room full of girls who are studying engineering and know about Crash Course Physics. And so that was overwhelming.
Yeah.
But in terms of analytics, I can't give you numbers, but just to meet these real people, it's like, oh my God, you exist. That's amazing.
And particularly with engineering, which is one of the worst of the STEM fields for not just having in terms of the audience, but having people going into it as a field. It must be nice, you don't often see that many female engineers in one room together, I imagine.
And hearing their stories as well, like why they got into engineering and how they found it and what they want to do with their qualifications now. That was so inspiring for me. What's been amazing is that people come up to me and say that I inspire them, but every time someone comes up to me and talks to me about what they're doing, I'm inspired. Because the way people are handling their careers and planning their futures is so different to when I was
back in my day.
I know. It's getting to sound more and more like my gran.
What's life looking like for you after Crash Course? So what's happened? What are the plans?
So now I'm still doing TV. As a result of doing VidCons and NerdCons, I'm kind of realizing that I should probably start making my own content, which is scary because normally I have a team behind me or in front of me, and the idea of doing everything myself is daunting, which is why I'm like in awe of people like you, just going, you know what, I'm just gonna
stick my camera up in a hotel room, don't have a sofa, who cares, still gonna name the series Sofa Science.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant. And it must be really hard work.
Oh, yes, definitely.
And I don't know how you manage it whilst doing a PhD. I mean, this is what I mean. I am so inspired by you and others that are doing this. You're just doing your own thing. You're not waiting around for people to give you an opportunity. And that's what I did in television.
Mm-hmm.
It was always waiting for people to give me an opportunity.
But you don't have to be on your own to make YouTube videos. I mean, obviously it's easier, but you could take other jobs like the Crash Course one where you're working in a team and it is more like a traditional TV job then in that sense. Is that something that would interest you? So it's more of a TV style job but still on YouTube?
Yeah, no, I'd love to do more stuff online because I believe that's the future of the way people are going to consume media. So I definitely want to be more in a digital space than a television space. And I think that's also the aspiration of television networks. They want to be more digital.
Yes.
So we're all tending towards the same destination.
Yeah.
But it's really, I think the kind of the space I'm in at the moment is that so many things interest me about human kind of behavior and anthropology and sociology, and it's kind of combining that with my experience in engineering, which is why I'm so passionate about women in STEM, because I kind of want to get to the bottom of why women don't believe they can be in STEM. I'm so obsessed about the whys, you know. And a few months ago I was speaking at the UN about women and girls in science, and it really opened my eyes to kind of the impact we can have as women in STEM and having gone through the experience. In terms of inspiring the next generations to go into it with confidence. We were talking a bit today about sort of like women in the workplace and how...
We've had some properly deep discussions at VidCon today. Yeah, so what would you... I mean, obviously, in this kind of video, you're not going to solve the problem of women. But what would you say is kind of the big things? Is it visibility? Is it role models? Is it...
I think it's role models. Okay. I think it's societal expectations. I mean, those two girls, or was it? It was definitely one of the girls that talked about, you know, her physics teacher saying, well, you're not really expected to be good at this subject.
Yeah.
And then her dropping out because she was like, well, I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to... And that was so different from my experience where I was not good at the sciences. I was terrible at maths. But I kept pushing on with it because my father was so encouraging and supportive. And I was like, yeah, I'm bad at maths now, but maybe I can get there one day. But if you
said your dad was from an engineering background.
Yeah, he's a mechanical engineer. And, you know, he kept, you know, pushing me to keep going. Whereas if you're struggling with maths, and we all do at some point, right?
We all struggle with maths.
And when, because for me, a penny dropped at a certain point in my maths career. I really, really struggled with maths early on. And then one day it was just like, oh, wait, I get it. And then suddenly I was like getting A's and stuff. But to get to that point took a lot of work. And I think during that hard work period, girls drop out. And I just want to learn more about that. And I don't know, could that be some sort of YouTube-y thing? I don't know. To be honest, I'm taking a bit of a step back from all of it, all of my career, because I was living in Los Angeles for the last 3 years. Only just moved back to England. And I'm kind of, you know, I'm back home now. And so I'm kind of just wanting to take a bit of a back step and just go, right, I've done a lot. And, you know, what am I going to do with all this experience and knowledge and hopes for what I would like to do? Like, how can I consolidate all of that into a career?
Yeah. This is a little bit of a sneaky question. Is TV dead?
I don't think TV's dead for drama.
Okay.
You know, the high-end, glossy sort of Game of Thrones, House of Cards stuff.
Although aren't they now Amazon or Netflix?
So it's going that way as well.
So it's online distribution of a TV format.
And I think TV, you know, are quite happy to spend similar budgets, maybe even more, on that kind of entertainment. I don't think that will die anytime soon, because you've still got that generation of people that love to sort of cozy up with their TV and just like, all right, I just want to be entertained. I want to just switch my brain off and just enjoy this. But I think television might be dying for factual.
Okay, even in an era of Planet Earth 2 and Blue Planet 2, I think they're going to be making as well.
Yeah, but those kind of stuff, you know, David Attenborough is, you know, he rules that stuff. And who else, you know, other people are making great content, but not in a David Attenborough format. So, I mean, those blue planets cost millions.
Yes.
We don't have the budget to make more of that stuff. And so I just feel people are going to consume factual in very different ways, you know, shorter form. I think the people that enjoy watching factual entertainment are people that don't mind it being a bit raw and not so glossy.
That's interesting, because that is very much YouTube style and not TV style.
That's what I mean, which is why I think that TV is kind of phasing out for factual. I mean, I see a place for television. I just don't see it as being a great platform for science necessarily. Not the science that we want to do, which is like, here is the raw science. You know, I think you can perfectly communicate science without needing the 4-camera operation, you know, and people like you are the future of science communication and television. I mean, what you're doing could be made into a longer format, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're paving the way for the way science could go, and then eventually TV will kind of find you and just go, can we make this into a longer form, and here's a bigger budget.
That would be nice.
That's
TV
the way I see it.
That are watching. What are you proudest of in your career?
Gosh, so many moments where we were, particularly for Al Jazeera, where we did some great stories. Stories that need to be told about climate change, about, I loved that lung story because it was, I mean, it was so immersive. I mean, the patient that needed a lung transplant had been waiting, and we managed to capture that on camera and talk about the importance of like lung donorship and things like that. But at the moment, maybe it's because it's really topical. I mean, television feels very self-indulgent because we're often telling stories that aren't, you know, I did a series on the Orkney Islands for the BBC, and it was just so much fun. Does it change people's lives knowing about, you know, the science and tech in Orkney? Not necessarily, particularly because it was actually a history programme with a bit of science and tech involved.
Okay.
But something like Crash Course is meaningful to me because I really feel like I'm helping people with their education. And anything I can do to make people better themselves gives me a sense of purpose. So that's why I loved doing that. And I'd love to do more of that because I've got to a stage in my career where it's less about me and it's more about helping others. And I'm the first to admit that at the beginning of my TV career, it was all about me. Like, I want you to watch me, and, you know, and today I want to use my knowledge to benefit other people. I feel like I've clocked up enough experience to be able to share it.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to do going forward. And anything that I've done in my past that has that element to it has been the most rewarding.
Oh, that's great. And what one thing do you think that the audience doesn't know about you that you wish that they knew, like in terms of you, your YouTubing, your TV? Like, what kind of misconceptions are there, or things that you just wish that you could reach through the camera and let people know?
Gosh, that's such a massive question.
I know.
I think maybe, well, it's a message that I want to convey to others, which is, you know, be proud to be yourself. And the reason why I want to convey that message is because for a long time I have been very I've been very lost as to who I am, and been kind of scared to share that truth. But as I sort of like the older I get, I guess the more I feel like I can come out about the kind of struggles I've had with self-confidence. It's weird because many girls that meet me think I have never struggled with confidence. I've never struggled with self-esteem. I've never struggled with any of those kind of things that a lot of women go through.
Mm-hmm.
But I've like really, really struggled with that stuff, and kept it very private. And it's been a struggle that I've done on my own. And the older I get, the more I'm just like, you know what? I've had the same self-doubts that a lot of girls have had. And that's what my UN speech kind of was talking about. That I really did doubt whether I should be in engineering. And I was lucky I had someone pushing me along, which was my dad.
Thanks, Shini's dad. It seems you have a lot to answer for, so thank you.
Thanks, Dad. But yeah, no, I want to be that supporter of girls that kind of have the curiosity for STEM, but not necessarily the confidence.
You want to be the Shini's dad for other people.
Yeah, and yeah, I think I've got to a stage where I'm now brave enough to say, you know what, I really did struggle with that stuff. Whereas before I was like, no, I'm fine. Yeah. I can do that. No,
I don't have problems.
It's all good, you know. And how I do that, I have yet to kind of figure out.
I mean, that sounds like a perfect format for YouTube, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, you know what? I don't want to be like, oh, poor me, because a lot of people are like, yeah, kind of look at you. There's nothing like, what have you got to struggle about? So it's kind of, I don't want to play some sort of sympathy thing, but at the same time, like, I do want to be able to connect with others that may be struggling in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And just go, because it's not about how you look. We live in a world where everything is about how you look or how you appear to be looking. And often the reality in ourselves can be very different to our outward appearance. So maybe tapping into a bit of that is where I want to go. And I didn't even realise, but you've made me realise that. Thank you.
Don't worry, lots of people say this is therapy for science communication.
Yeah, I need to book another session with
you. What are your favourite social media platforms? And where can people find you on the internet now that you're no longer on Crash Course?
My stuff is always being put online, and I like try and collect it onto a playlist or something, because again, television is always wanting to go digital. I love Instagram, but that's because I am such a visual person.
Okay. What's your Instagram handle?
I think it's.
She loves Instagram so much that we will be inserting the handle here.
Well, I love putting my pictures up there. I don't know. I think it's Dr. Shini Somara. Yeah, I think it is actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because my Twitter is without the doctor.
Okay. Is there a reason for having one, not the other?
I think I just started my Twitter account earlier than when I had my doctor. I can't even remember. There was a time in my career where everyone was like, you really need to make people realise you're a doctor.
The doctor thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I'm now going to get a website that says drshinisamara.com.
Yeah.
And then there's a time in your career where you're like, it doesn't matter, you know, just call me whatever.
No, I currently cannot wait to be Dr. Sally LePage. And that, as soon as I get it, I will be changing my Twitter, my Instagram, my YouTube, my everything. Yeah.
I wonder if you will. Let's find out when it happens. Because you'll just be like, I've got a gazillion followers anyway, and now to switch over to Doctor.
It's not hard.
It's not hard?
No. You can change handles quite easily, shouldn't you?
Can you?
Yeah.
Maybe I should just change.
Because I remember Dr. Alice Roberts changing into Professor Alice Roberts.
Ooh.
On Twitter. Yeah.
Okay. Well, after this video, can you teach me?
I'll show you how to do that. So we'll teach Shini some new media, and you go and look at all the stuff in the cards. Thank you so much for coming and joining us.
Thank you so much.
It's been a long weekend of chats and things.
Yeah,
and hopefully,
we're knackered.
Hopefully you will have already seen the two of the panels which we filmed, the Let Me Explain You a Thing film panel and the Women in Science panel. Sadly, the sexual identity one we didn't get to film. But yeah, they should all be up on my channel as well, so you can watch the two of us chatting about more stuff like that.
Yeah.
Cool. See you for another Sofa Science.